It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unhappy Hour. My name is Brian Engelman. I am your host, as I have been for the past, 7 or 8 years now. We're going to bring in Zak Baris to talk to us about a 2019 Cleveland Cavaliers kind of an update. Who is Collin Sexton? What's going on with Kevin Love and the rest of the injuries on the team? Who are some of the draft picks we should be keeping our eye on? Because if we're going to tank, I think we need to tank gloriously and try to get one of those top-notch blue-chip prospects coming out of the draft next year. And I really don't want to win anymore. If we're going to be bad, let's be historically bad. Brian saying in the Facebook group, there's two Facebook groups. One is called Strictly Cavaliers. They're private, so find Strictly Cavaliers, powered by The Unhappy Hour, and then also find the private group, The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. But in the group, we're broadcasting live over here on Facebook, and Brian just said 2019 Cavs update is that they pretty much suck. And that's probably pretty accurate. So we're going to talk about the Cavaliers, and then we're going to switch gears and talk about a 2019 Cleveland Browns preview show, summing up what we learned about the Cleveland Browns. That'll be a little bit more fun. So without further ado, let's get Zak Baris into the program and get this party started.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Living the dream, Zak. Thank you very much for joining us again. How's the new year treating you?
It's been good. We did a beautiful Cavs game tonight.
Beautiful Cavs game. Let's talk about it. What did you see?
Well, we got killed, so I didn't really pay attention much in the second half. Ball movement was at a minimum level. They really just don't have anyone on the court. Dynamic score up. It shows up. They don't have a dynamic score. They're nothing. They traded Korver. They don't really have any outside shooting. They're missing threes like crazy tonight. It's tough. It's going to take a lot for them to win some games, and they're going to lose out. I mean, they're not going to lose out. But this is a very bad basketball team. They have the worst record in the NBA now. And, it is what it is.
So let's talk about what it is. Who did the Cavs trade away? We're kind of doing a recap. I don't know, the sting of LeBron leaving and us not being competitive and then Love being injured.
Let's put it this way. First and foremost, Kevin Love is hurt. Kevin Love is who you need in order to score points. He's your most dynamic player. He's not there. He's been gone since the first week of the season. So take Kevin Love out of the lineup. You're already going to have issues as it is. You traded Kyle Korver. J.R. Smith is gone. You traded George Hill. So you traded the majority of your veterans as well. Or release them or whatever, and J.R. Smith, we don't really know what he is. He's just, kind of not there. So you get rid of all the veterans on the team and you replace them with younger guys, and you bring back Dellavedova, which is nice. It's fun to see. Everybody, the MVP chants are fun. But they really just don't have a scorer right now. They don't have Kevin Love. They don't have someone in the middle of the lineup that can score dynamically other than really Jordan Clarkson. And Clarkson's one of those guys capable of putting up 15 to 20 a night, but not going to put up 40. He's not capable of that. So it's really tough to, unless you have a great shooting game. And this problem is this team has very little depth right now with all the injuries. John Henson's out. They really just don't have a lot of depth right now. So when they're playing these games, they're very competitive usually for the first 2.5 to 3.5 quarters. And it was like, I'll never forget, it was the Warriors game a few weeks ago. And that game is, you're sitting there watching, and you're saying to yourself, okay, they've got a chance, and all of a sudden Golden State goes on a run. Cleveland just doesn't have the depth to compete right now, which is a good thing. They've got some young talent. They've got some decent players. They need a top 5 pick in the draft, though. They really do badly.
I mean, they're on track right now. If the draft were to start, the lottery were to begin, we'd have the worst record.
If they wound up with the number 1 overall pick tomorrow, they'd be taking Zion Williamson, which would honestly be fantastic for the Cavs. It would put butts right back in the seat. You get the national television presence that you wanted anyway. It's obviously not the LeBron hype, but it's going to be pretty hyped up if they get Zion somehow. Another great piece to fit with this team would be R.J. Barrett from Duke as well. And then at third, you've got Cameron Reddish. You've got Romeo Langford from, or you've got, I'm trying to think if it's Langford from, or if it's Jones from Indiana. You got Nazir Little from North Carolina. You've got Bol from Oregon, but they're really two dynamic prospects that I think that are like, to be tier 1 NBA players. And that's R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson. Cam Reddish comes in there at number 3, another guy from Duke, who really the spotlight's been off of all year. But he's going to be another, odds are he'll be an NBA All-Star. But really, they need a superstar to build around. To build around Collin Sexton, I don't know if Tristan or Kevin Love will be on this team next year. It remains to be seen. But Tristan, before the injury, was playing lights out. Lights out.
We'll talk about Tristan because, we are the worst team. But once again, Tristan's injured. Kevin Love's out. We've traded away all of our depth and all of our veteran leadership.
That's the thing is, if this team would have just gone the year, and they would have been healthy, you'd be looking at a team that would probably win in the low to mid 30s. Probably anywhere from 31 to 35 games. Fringe playoff team in the East, not an actual playoff team, but almost there on the border. Being out by a couple games, and that's not what you want. For the longevity of this franchise, you wanted to suck. You want to trade your contracts like Korver and stuff, recoup picks, take on some bad contracts that have a year left on them. Because 2 years is really when you're going to go after and go in free agency again. You want to free that up. You want to have that, and you want to be able to have a couple of young players at the helm that can really take this team to the next level. They don't have any superstar talent right now. As good as Collin Sexton has the chance to be, I don't know if he's ever going to be an all-star. I mean, he has games where I've seen him, and, I've been to a game where he's put up 29 points. I'm like, okay, he could be a future all-star. Odds are he won't, but he could be. It all depends on how his development works. And he's got potential, but he's not Kyrie Irving. Let's get that out of the way now. He's not Kyrie, never will be.
Well, and that's kind of what I want to ask is, who is Collin Sexton? You just described him as possibly a potential future all-star, but you're not seeing it yet.
I see him as a lead guard. He's going to be a fringe all-star player is how I see him.
Comparable to who? Like talk about his handles, his shooting. Who does he remind you of?
Here's the thing. Don't forget. When the Cavaliers drafted Kyrie Irving, he was compared to Kevin Johnson. His draft comparison, I pulled up my old scouting report that I had on Kyrie Irving. He was compared to Kevin Johnson. Never projected to be an all-star, was projected to be a lead guard, but not an all-star. He was supposedly in a terrible draft. Don't forget who came out of that draft. Kawhi Leonard came out of that draft. Klay Thompson came out of that draft. It was a very, very talented draft, actually. There were a lot of stars that came out of that draft. It actually turned out to be one of the better classes. But at the time, it just didn't have high projections.
So even though we might not be seeing it with Sexton right now, it's no big deal because it's so early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I want to say something because I know you had been previously high on a draft pick known as Andrew Wiggins. The Cavs ended up getting him and then traded him away. And, I saw an interesting story last week. He forgot to wear his jersey. He missed 7 out of 12 free throws, and then he called the fans. He insulted the fans. What did he call them?
He's just not any good. I mean, Brian, let's just take it what it is. He's never developed as a prospect. I don't know if that's Minnesota's fault or if him being so hyped. Don't forget, I told you when I saw him play in high school, he was one of the best prospects I've ever seen. College, different story. He was not one of the best prospects I've ever seen in college. He totally disappeared during the NCAA tournament. But at the time, though, he was probably, he was still like, here's the problem. Don't forget, Embiid missed his first 2 seasons in the league. The Cavaliers are not going to take a player like Joel Embiid. They couldn't play 2 years. Philly had the right to do so. Cleveland was trying to win now. They had Kyrie Irving on the roster. Even if LeBron James wouldn't have come back, that Cleveland team was trying to win at the moment. Bringing in Embiid would have been a disaster for the Cavs, although he is by far the best player from that class. Jabari Parker's gone from the Bucks. He's no good. And let's just take it for what it is. I mean, Cavaliers got a steal on that Kevin Love trade.
Yeah. Well, and people at the time hated it, and I was one of the people. I couldn't put it through my head at why we had to get rid of. It makes sense. I understand the trade. It worked out perfectly.
I told you at the time. I said to this day, nobody can sit there and argue with me and say the Timberwolves won the Andrew Wiggins trade and Kevin Love trade. Nobody can. How many finals did the Cavs go to in a row? 4. Okay? Kevin Love was an invaluable piece. We had a championship because of Kevin Love. The Cavaliers would never have had a championship with Andrew Wiggins. Odds are, I don't know if they would have ever won a finals with Andrew Wiggins. He's never been any good. He's never been an efficient defender. He's never been an efficient offensive player as it is. He's been nothing. All he does is score. He does nothing. All he can do is score. He can't, and he's not even a good scorer.
Yeah.
He takes a bunch of low percentage shots. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's a terrible defender. He's not even a good perimeter defender. Kevin Love has been a much better player and much more dynamic. There is not one person in the right mind now. Wiggins is still, what is he in year 5 now? Year 6? Year 5? Still no All-Star appearance. He's not even close to an All-Star appearance. On one playoff appearance. If a superstar should be able to at least lead his team to the playoffs.
Well, we traded so that we could get a top, I don't know what Kevin Love was, top 20, top 15. I don't know where we ranked him when he came in off of his Timberwolves performance.
It's a guy for 4 years as a top 20, top 15, and top 25 player in the league.
Yeah.
He's been a very good player for Cleveland, despite what happens now. Cleveland won that trade. Andrew Wiggins is not developing into a superstar. Minnesota's regretting that extension to him. I mean, he stinks.
Well, let me ask you about what we have done as far as extending people and stuff. How would you grade, just now that we have a little bit of hindsight behind us now, how do you grade the Cavaliers' front office performance with the Kyrie Irving trade? All the things shaken out the way that it has. What do you grade it?
D minus with that trade. It just, look what we got out of it. We got Isaiah Thomas, gone. Never resigned. He got traded midseason. Jay Crowder, traded midseason. Ante Zizic really isn't much of an NBA player. If you put him back in the 80s and 90s, yeah, he'd be a very good NBA player in that day because it's a slow-moving game. But at the pace it's played now, and he's not a three-point shooter, he just doesn't belong in today's NBA. He's too slow. It's just not his game, and that's the problem. And so out of it, they essentially traded Collin Sexton. They got Collin Sexton, Larry Nance, and Jordan Clarkson out of it. I don't love the trade at all. You got 2 role players and a potential lead guard, but again, you traded a top 10 player in the NBA for that. It's not worth it. If you look back on it, they would have still had Kyrie. You could have moved him this year. It's really bad. I mean, trade was bad, but I think Kobe's made some other good moves. Acquiring a first-round pick with Milwaukee, getting Dellavedova back. And don't forget, next year Dellavedova becomes an expiring contract and go and move him for another piece. So that's what the Cavs can do, because really 2020 is the Cavs' window to really compete again. Get some young talent in there, and then you've got max room for 2 free agents. That's when you go about it. And that's when you really try to go and it would be very, very unwise of them to go over and sign an over-the-hill superstar this year to go and spend that money in free agency on Draymond Green if they're able to free up cap room.
No.
I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm telling you, Draymond has completely lost a step. He's not the player he once was, and there's a reason why the Warriors are suffering. He just isn't the player he once was. I do firmly believe this is the last year of the Warriors dynasty. If Kevin Durant was going to commit to Golden State, he would have already done it by now. He's not staying there. He knows he's not staying. And remember when I proposed that trade 2 years ago on the air and last year, saying trade Draymond and Klay Thompson for Anthony Davis. I've been proposing a trade for 2 years, and now it's a trade that the Golden State Warriors would love to make. But why in the hell would New Orleans do it for an expiring Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, who's up for an extension? Draymond's not having a good year at all. It doesn't make any sense anymore. So it was a trade that 2 years ago made sense after the Warriors lost in 16. Imagine pairing Davis, Durant, and Curry together. That would have been an unstoppable big 3.
Jeez.
That would have been together for years.
Yeah, that's just ludicrous to think about. But where do you see Kevin Durant going then? If you see him bouncing?
I see the Lakers being a viable option. I see the Knicks. And I see the Clippers. Now, I do think there's a mystery team in store for him. I don't know where it will be. But I genuinely think he wants to be in a big market. And I think he wants to win championships. I cannot see him playing LeBron's shadow. There's just no reason for him to leave in Golden State and play in LeBron's shadow. I just don't see that happening. Although weird things have happened. They could wind up with Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant next season. I can't. It's tough to see, but it is possible.
I know it is. What do you?
But again, don't forget the Lakers have struck out every opportunity over the last 6 years, other than LeBron James. Let's not forget that. Here's the thing: is you could see Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant team up with the Clippers. That's something I could see happening. I'm not saying it will, but I just don't see Kawhi going to team up with LeBron. Here's another problem with the Lakers. The Lakers are too hung up on their young players to trade them. We've witnessed this before. You have to have superstars. Kyle Kuzma, as good as he is never going to be a superstar. Lonzo Ball, I don't see ever being a superstar either. When you have a chance to trade for a guy like Paul George and you don't do it, it wreaks havoc on the potential of your franchise. Oklahoma City pulled the trigger. He signed an extension with them, which I never expected to happen.
Very true. Very true. I mean, do you see LeBron staying in the Lakers for a while, or do you see him coming back to the Cavaliers again?
I really don't know with LeBron. I mean, I see him being there at least the next 2 seasons after this. He signed a 4-year contract, 3 years with an option.
Yeah, I just wonder if he might come back again once the Cavs tank and rebuild and reload again. We'll see. You know, we're not in salary cap hell anymore.
If he wins a championship there, it's a different story. He went there, he wants to win a ring. If he doesn't win a ring, I see him being there for another year.
That's fair. That's fine. What did you make of what LeBron said that winning the Cavaliers title in 2016 makes him the greatest of all time?
I don't think it's up for him to determine who the greatest of all time is. You know, he obviously thinks he's the greatest of all time, which is great. I think he's the greatest of all time. But, again, it's still up for debate. Jordan did win 6 titles.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a totally different era. Jordan also never went against a super team like the Warriors. That's another thing, too. If the Warriors would not have added Kevin Durant, odds are that LeBron would have won 3 titles in Cleveland.
Yeah, if we wouldn't have been injured that first year, we had that first year on lockdown.
Odds are the Cavaliers probably would have won 3 out of 4 titles with LeBron being back if it wasn't for the Warriors assembling the big four, you know, in Golden State and adding Kevin Durant. If Durant would have never come, totally different story. Odds are Cavaliers would have won 2 or 3 finals.
Yeah,
that would have been a totally injured. The fact that LeBron even beat the super team, beat the super Warriors. You know, someone referred on. I was listening to 92.3 The Fan earlier, and someone referred to it. I can't take credit for it. It's like when Ohio State beat Alabama in 2014. You know, Bama was just that good, and they reload every year. Like to beat Bama was insane. You know, in the first playoff game before the national championship.
Right.
And, you know, again, I can't take credit for it, but that's what it's the equivalent to. Going out and beating a team like Bama, or, you know, when the Patriots were in the middle of their dynasty, beating the Patriots, or, you know, when the Yankees back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, were their dynasty. You know, when the Indians beat them twice.
Yeah. And the Diamondbacks took them out, too. Right.
You know, or the Indians did. Wait, hold on. The Indians lost to the Yankees in '96. In '95, I believe we beat them. We didn't play them in '95 in the playoffs. '96, we didn't beat them. '97, we did beat them. I think in the AL. Did we play them in the ALDS in '97? And then they beat Baltimore in the ALCS. In '98, the Yankees beat the Indians. Yeah, and then in '99, the Red Sox beat the Indians. In 01, the Indians lost to the Mariners. So, you know, but it's going to the World Series over a team like the 90s Yankees that were so good. But this is different, though. You know, baseball, anything can happen. Basketball, the team with the best talent almost always wins.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, and that's the difference, too, between like a college football championship game and an NFL playoff game. It's one and done versus a 7-game series. And, you know, usually the better team will win an NBA series, whereas you can have a few more upsets in baseball, it seems. And it'd be interesting to check the math on that. I know we got some math nerds in the group if we want to look at percentages of upsets. But, yeah, maybe it's not up to LeBron to decide it. But I said LeBron's been the greatest player ever to lace up sneakers for several years now. I'm not happy that he's in my backyard playing for the Lakers. I'm not actively rooting against him a ton. He annoys me when he starts talking politics and current events, and some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is infuriating. But, I do wonder if they're going to build another super team when this season expires and crazy stuff's about to happen. I wouldn't put it past him. I would just like for the Cavs, like you said, maybe not next year, hopefully not this year. Let's not get too good again too quick. If we're going to tank, let's tank gloriously. And let's get as many assets as we can so that maybe, like you said, 2020, the Cavs can maybe start spending some free agent money and make something happen.
There's nothing wrong with rebuilding. I mean, listen, I wouldn't trade the last 4 years for anything.
Fair.
I mean, I don't think you would either. It was a great 4 years that we had with LeBron. I wouldn't trade it for anything. We'll never replicate that ever again. I don't care if we get Zion Williamson. Odds are the Cavaliers are never making 4 straight NBA Finals again. That was so rare. And to be a part of that and to be there in 16 parade, Brian, and to be there for the finals and be there for the win and, and be at all those games. I was at every single finals game over the last 4 years. Every finals home game I had the opportunity to be at over the last 4 years. That's something I'll never forget. That's something you tell your kids someday. That's something, in 30 years from now, people will be like, whoa. You were at, you got to be a part of that. You got to see that run every single night. It's an incredible feeling, and it's an incredible scene to see that. It's just going to be like, you're going to be able, now that the Browns are starting to get in, you're going to be able to tell people, oh, man, I suffered through the Browns for 30 years in a row with them.
Oh, yeah.
And I excuse my language, but it's just the truth.
Yeah.
The Browns have seriously been a terrible franchise since the late 80s, early 90s. They had their playoff appearance in 94 under Belichick. 02, they lost the team in 96 for 3 years. You had your 02 playoff appearance, which you thought the team was back in the rise. 2007, they won 10 games, didn't make the playoffs. Haven't had a winning season since 07, and one double-digit win season since 1995. Since the 94-95 season when they won 11-5.
Right. Yeah, and that was painful.
We haven't seen a playoff victory in 24 years.
That's
25 years.
So weird.
24 technically since the 94-95 season against Bill Parcells and the Patriots. And then the next round they lost to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. That was the last time we won a playoff game. Cut me a break already on this one. This is the story now. It's the feel-good story of the year with the Browns, finally firing Hugh Jackson. The Browns bringing in Baker Mayfield and getting it right. I couldn't tell you how mad I was on draft day when we took Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward. I think we did a show after. I was not happy at all.
Little did we know.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I wanted Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield's in a whole other world than Sam Darnold. You watch Sam Darnold, there's days he looks good, and there are days he just looks horrible. Baker Mayfield makes some of the most amazing throws I've ever seen. He's been incredible this season. I'm so psyched I can't wait another 9 months for Browns football.
And I think we have officially turned the corner. I have stopped the stream on Strictly Cavaliers, and I've relaunched on Strictly Browns. Make sure you're following that in Facebook. If you're in the groups, go ahead and leave some comments, by the way. I'm still broadcasting live on The Unhappy Hour, private sports group in Facebook. But yeah, I think we've officially turned the corner from the NBA over to the Browns, but I wanted to address Chad's question. Chad just came in and he said, hey, Zach, what's your thoughts on the upcoming NBA draft? But I believe we pretty much handled that question before Chad showed up, so it'll be on the stream for you to find afterward, and I will post it in YouTube. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about the NBA draft, and we will officially turn it back over to Browns?
As long as the Cavaliers are as bad as they will wind up with their pick. Odds are they'll wind up with either Zion Williamson or R.J. Barrett. You could hope for with one of the top two. I would not be upset with either one of the top two picks. 3, you've got Cam Reddish. After that, it's just a crapshoot of who everybody likes. There's Bol from Oregon, who's basically the 7'5", 7'6" center, who can shoot the 3. But how will his body hold up? He's a twig. there are guys like Nazir Little from North Carolina who really have not seen get a lot of playing time. So it's really hard to determine. It's almost in that Dion Waiters role where he's been a sixth man, hasn't been starting. Why hasn't he been starting? I think as the season progresses, now that college football is winding down and conference play has started, I think you'll really get to see these guys progress. And this is a very talented draft class, and I think you will see some superstar talent come out of it. And the Cavaliers will be fortunate to get one of those top 5 picks because they do have the worst record in the league, and it'll persist, and they will have one of the worst records in the league, one of the 2 or 3 worst. So no reason to worry over there. They'll give you guaranteed a top 5 pick. So with that, but I do think the Cavaliers' dream scenario is getting them Zion Williamson or RJ Barrett.
Okay. All right. Well then, Chad, if you want to go back and check out the beginning of the show, Zach went a little bit more in depth about some of those prospects coming out in the NBA draft next year.